People know now. They know what you did.
The church bells tolled, filling the air with a joyous melody that usually signaled the happiest day of a bride's life. Callie stood in her wedding gown, heart pounding with both excitement and nervousness. Her hands were trembling, but her smile was radiant. She had dreamt of this moment for so long, marrying her handsome groom, walking down the aisle in front of her family, her friends, and all those who believed in love. But as the minutes ticked by, a strange silence began to settle over the hall. She looked toward the door, waiting for him to arrive. Callie glanced around, noticing the uncertain expressions creeping over the guests' faces, and a hollow ache started to spread through her chest. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd, but Callie kept a steady smile, convincing herself that he would come. He had to come. She clutched her bouquet, almost bruising the delicate flowers in her tightening grip. It was only when the whispers grew into quiet, cruel laughter that the truth hit her like a cold wave. He wasn't coming. He had left her, abandoned her on what should have been the happiest day of her life, with no explanation, no message, nothing. All eyes were on her, pity and amusement mixing in the stares of those who had gathered to celebrate her love, and now watched her heart break. In that single, crushing moment, Callie felt her world shatter into pieces. After the guests had left, some offering weak apologies, others snickering as they walked out, Callie felt a storm of emotions raging inside her. She was hurt, humiliated, and a deep anger took root within her heart. How dare he make a fool out of her like that? With her heart aching and her mind spinning, she decided she couldn't go home. Not yet. She wanted to escape this misery, even if just for one night. It was then, in the blur of the night, that she found herself in a crowded bar, ordering drink after drink until the world felt a little less sharp, a little less painful. Somewhere in the dim, hazy room, she caught the eye of a man. He was strikingly handsome, his gaze intense, piercing through her defenses in a way that made her pulse quicken. Without a word, they connected. The stranger's warmth was an unexpected comfort, and she didn't feel like herself as she took his hand, leading him to his hotel room. That night, she let herself get lost in someone else's arms, someone who didn't know her pain or her shame. It was an impulsive decision, one she would never have made if not for the heartbreak. But in that fleeting moment, she wanted to feel alive, wanted to feel wanted. When the morning light spilled through the window, Callie woke up feeling empty and raw. But there was a strange sense of relief, too. She dressed quietly, slipping out before he even woke up. To her, it was supposed to be a one-night stand, a memory she could bury along with the pain of being jilted. But to her shock, the stranger had other plans. Days later, he appeared again, persistent, charming, and annoyingly attentive. His name was Nathan. He called her, sent her texts, and even showed up unexpectedly at places he knew she would be. She was certain he would grow tired, lose interest, and move on. But each time she pushed him away, he came back with more fervor, his eyes filled with a kind of longing she couldn't understand. It was as if he'd found something precious that night and was unwilling to let it slip through his fingers. "You think you can just walk away?" he said one evening when he found her sitting alone at a cafe. "Callie, I can't stop thinking about you. There's something real here, and I know you feel it too." Callie's heart skipped a beat at his words. Part of her wanted to laugh. She had just lost everything she thought she had, and here was this man, standing before her, begging for a chance. She'd been burned so badly that the thought of trusting anyone again seemed like a cruel joke. "You don't know me," she replied coldly, trying to shield herself behind a wall of indifference. "That night, it was a mistake." He shook his head, refusing to back down. "Maybe you think it was a mistake, but I don't. I want to know you, Callie. The real you, not just the girl who showed up in a wedding dress that night." Days turned into weeks, and despite herself, she found it harder to resist Nathan's relentless charm. He made her laugh when she thought she couldn't, made her feel beautiful when all she wanted to do was disappear. It scared her, how quickly he slipped past her defenses, how he seemed to see past her hurt, past her bitterness, and into the parts of her that were still tender and raw. But each time she considered giving in, the image of her wedding day flashed before her eyes. The shame, the laughter, the betrayal. She had trusted once, and look where it had left her. She couldn't put herself through that kind of heartbreak again. Yet Nathan was patient. He didn't pressure her, didn't push too hard. Instead, he was there, steady as the sunrise, with an unwavering devotion that began to thaw the ice around her heart. He shared pieces of himself too, his own scars, his own wounds, and each revelation made her feel a little less alone. One night, as they sat under a starlit sky, he took her hand in his gaze holding hers with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. "Callie, I know you're scared, and I know that you've been hurt, but I also know that there's something here, something worth fighting for. Don't let one man's betrayal steal your chance at happiness." Tears stung her eyes, but for the first time, she didn't try to hide them. Instead, she leaned into his embrace, allowing herself to feel the comfort of someone who was willing to stand by her side, even when she was at her most broken. It was still terrifying, but Callie realized that maybe, just maybe, Nathan was right. Perhaps love was worth the risk, even if it had hurt her once before. In the weeks that followed, Callie began to piece her life back together, slowly allowing herself to explore the possibility of love again with Nathan. But the wound left by her former fiancé, Ethan, still throbbed beneath the surface. She found herself questioning why he had left, why he had made a mockery of her, and why he had chosen such a humiliating exit instead of simply ending things beforehand. Then one evening, she was out with Nathan when she spotted a familiar face across the street. Ethan. He was laughing with a group of friends, his arm wrapped around a woman Callie had never seen before. They looked happy, carefree, as if he hadn't just shattered someone's world a few weeks ago. Her pulse quickened, anger mixing with the old hurt. She couldn't believe the audacity. He hadn't even tried to reach out to her since that disastrous day. "Is that him?" Nathan asked gently, noticing her reaction. Callie nodded, unable to tear her gaze away. "That's Ethan, the man who walked out on me." Nathan squeezed her hand, offering silent support. But for Callie, it wasn't enough just to see him. She needed answers. She wanted him to feel even a fraction of the humiliation he had put her through. The next day, Callie took to social media. She crafted a post, recounting how she had been abandoned on her wedding day, left alone at the altar without a word. It was raw and real, her pain bleeding into every sentence. Though she didn't name Ethan, the details were enough that anyone who knew them would put the pieces together. The post went viral in her circle. People shared it, leaving comments that ranged from sympathy to outrage. As word spread, it reached Ethan's social circles, and soon whispers turned into full-blown rumors. The shame she had felt that day began to cling to him, and the tables had turned. The community that had once laughed at her was now looking at Ethan in disgust. But that wasn't enough. Callie wanted to confront him, to finally hear from his own mouth why he'd hurt her so callously. When she finally mustered the courage to face Ethan, she arranged to meet him at a local cafe. She walked in, calm and composed, though every fiber of her being wanted to shake him, to make him feel her anger. Ethan looked uncomfortable as she sat down, his usual confidence missing. He fidgeted, unable to meet her gaze, and she relished in his discomfort. "Why?" she asked simply, her voice steady. "Why would you leave me like that, Ethan? What did I ever do to deserve that kind of humiliation?" He stammered, grasping for words. "Callie, I panicked. I didn't think I could go through with it, but I couldn't bring myself to face you. I'm sorry." She let out a bitter laugh. "Sorry? Sorry isn't good enough. You left me to be laughed at by everyone I care about. Do you have any idea what that feels like?" Ethan squirmed, but Callie held his gaze, refusing to let him off the hook. "People know now. They know what you did," she said, her voice low and cutting. "And maybe now they'll see the real you, the man who hides, who lets fear rule him, who would rather let someone else suffer than own up to his mistakes." As she stood to leave, she felt lighter, as though she had reclaimed something of herself in standing up to him. And with every step away from that cafe, her heart felt a little freer. When she met Nathan later that evening, he didn't need to ask her what had happened. He simply took her hand, and together they walked into a new chapter, one built on respect, honesty, and the courage to love again, despite the scars that lay beneath. What do you think of Callie's journey? Do you believe she made the right decision in confronting her past? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's talk about the twists and turns in this emotional story. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Join the family and be part of our growing community. We've got more amazing stories coming your way.